Hello and good evening, students, STEM, chemists, and virologists. So, I would just like to keep my promise. Gaya ng sabi ko, I will give you a supplemental activity or this video para mas ladong ma-explain yung SSLM Week 4 or Module 4 dahil maraming hindi nakapagsagot doon sa ating Module 4, and as I check on your papers, medyo konti yung nag-submit ng Module 4. So this time, I will try to explain more, lalo na doon sa problem solving natin kung paano yung pagkuha ng angles at kung paano nga ba yung pag-solve talaga ng ating mga forces, okay, and the angles doon sa ating SSLM Week 4. So, our Week 4 discussed on the Newton's first law of motion. Our Newton's first law of motion emphasized that the net force is equivalent to 0. F net is equals to 0. When F net is equals to 0, meaning to say the body or the object is in the state of equilibrium. So, kung nasa equilibrium siya, meaning to say the object stays at rest or stays in motion and it will keep on moving, di ba? Ang ganun ang first law of Newton natin eh. An object will stay at rest and an object will stay in motion unless it is acted upon by a net force. So in this case, in the first law of Newton, our F net is equivalent to 0, which means that the body is in the state of equilibrium. And sorry sa maingay na mga dumadaan. And as we always say doon sa ating module sa week 4, in every solution, ginagawa natin siya ng free body diagram. So doon sa ating example, say for instance, this is the ceiling. So that's the ceiling. And you have an object. Ano ba? Okay. Diba? Grabe naman natin pa-renewal. So, ang object natin dito is hung with the rope. Okay, so this is the rope. This is your F1, this is your F2. And you have, this is theta 1. And this is also theta 2. Okay, this is your object with the mass M. Now, for example, our given here, for example, your theta 1 here, let's say, is 45 degrees. Your theta 2 is 35 degrees. Then, your F1 is, let's say, 60 Newton. And your F2 is not given. Okay? Kasi dun sa example na binigay sa module, ang lahat ng forces sa 1 and 2 are given, di ba? So, paano natin isosolve kapag ganito siya? F2 is not given. Now, dito, meron kasi tayong dalawang, when we're going to draw a free body diagram of this object. So when we say free body diagram, ilalagay natin yung lahat ng mga acting forces. So sa free body diagram natin, okay, meron tayong acting force dito na weight. Okay, sometimes nilalagay lang natin siya as capital W. Then, because as you see, di ba, pag paslant na yan siya ganyan, ibig sabihin, meron siyang dalawang forces. Meron siyang force in the X direction and force in the Y direction. Or the Fx and the Fy. So, kapag ganito ang ating object, this is theta 2, tapos meron ayan, theta 1. So, ibig sabihin, meron kang F1x, meron ka ding F1y. Aside from that, meron ka ding F2x at meron ka ding F2y. In terms of the x direction or x component, paano ang ating equilibrium? Okay, yung state of equilibrium natin. So, we're going to equate, you have there F1 cosine theta 1 is equivalent to your F2 cosine theta 2. Then, for your y direction, yung nilagay sa capslet, sa module rather, sa SSLM, yung y direction, may binigay doon na F1 y may binigay doon na F1y plus F2y. Kasi ibig sabihin itong sa theta 1, meron siyang force 1 in the y direction, tapos meron din dito in the second direction. And meron ka ditong weight. Yung weight dito. So meron yan siyang minus weight is equals to 0. Ito yung sa y direction. Yung sa module, ito lang yung binigay, di ba? So, hindi natin nagamit yung itong isang equation. So, this time, para makuha natin itong F2, we can use this. F1 cosine theta 1 equals F2 cosine theta 2. So, let's try to solve itong F1 cosine theta 1 is equivalent to F2 cosine theta 2. Saan to siya galing? Actually, negative to siya. Galing to siya dito sa F1 cosine theta 1 plus F2 rather, cos theta 2 is equivalent to 0. This is in the state of equilibrium. Ito yun siya. So, this is negative. So, if we're going to use this equation para makuha itong F2, so we are going to just divide both sides with cosine theta 2. Okay, para yung matira is, let me erase. Yung matira is negative F2 equals F1 cosine theta 1 divided by cosine theta 2. So now, ilagay mo lang yung F1, what's given sa F1 dito, this is 60 Newton times cosine theta 1 is 45 divided by cosine theta 2 is 35. So, if you're going to multiply that, okay, so wala akong scientific calculator, but if you have a smartphone, you can use that. So, what is cosine 45? Cosine 45 is 0.71. So, 60 Newton times 0.71 divided by what is cosine 35? Cosine 35 is 0.819. So, let's try. Paano pa ba? Okay, ito natin siya move. Move natin siya. So, this is 60 times 0.71 is 42.6 Newton divided by 42.6 divided by 0.819 is, the answer is 52 Newton, 52.0. So this is your F2. Okay, so your F2 is 52 Newton. And meron pa yung natirang negative sign dito eh. So negative to siya, negative. So what is the negative sign here? Indicates it's in the negative direction. Okay, so you can put simply 52 Newton, but it's in the negative direction. Now, doon sa application part ninyo, you can use the same equation. Ito. Okay, F1 cosine theta 1 is equivalent to your the negative of F2 cos 2. So, depende doon, saan doon ang theta 1 yung hindi given, or ang theta 2 ba yun? So, if ang theta 1 yun siya, so, ay ibigay ko yung ano ha, yung formula. Let me erase this. So, kapag yung angle yung hinanap, so divide both side by F1. Okay, so your cosine theta 1 is equivalent to the negative of F2 times cosine theta 2 divided by F1. Paano kunin to siya? You will have your theta 1 is equivalent to the cosine inverse of this. Ito ang formula. Okay? So if this is the formula, magbigay lang tayo ng example ha. Paano yung paglagay paano ginagamit yung inverse sa calculator, paano siya. For example, so i-follow nyo na lang yung sa given doon sa ating SSLM. So, diretso na ako ha. So, example, may theta 1 tayo, may theta 2, may F1, may F2. So, for example, ang ating theta 1 ay, ano ba yun? Let's say 50. Let's say 50 degrees. Okay, yung theta 1 natin, for example, yan ang question mark. Then the theta 2 is 50 degrees. Then say for instance your F1 is 100 Newton, your F2 is 70 Newton. So using this formula here, so what is theta 1? It is the inverse of that one. Your F2, tingnan dito, F2 is 70 Newton times cosine theta 2. Cosine 50 degrees divided by F1, 100 Newton. Then cosine inverse 70 Newton times 50. So sa calcu natin, 70 times cosine 50 is 44.995 Newton. 44.995 divided by 100 Newton. So makancel na yung Newton. So 44.995 divided by 100, 44.995 divided by 100 is ito. It's 0.44995. Paano mo to ipe-press sa calculator mo Sa CalQ, kung meron kayong scientific calculator, you press shift or ito sa cellphone, yung second F, meron yun siya sa scientific calculator natin. Kung may scientific calculator tayo, yung second F, tinatawag natin second floor. So, you're going to press second. Kakasya ba siya? Wait. Press mo yung second, tapos lalabas yung cosine inverse. Yan. Cos inverse of 0.4495. Okay, so what is the cosine inverse of 0.4495? It's 63.3. It's your theta here. Theta 1 is 63.3 or 63 degrees. Okay? And since negative siya, pwede lang yun, negative 63 degrees, which indicates it's again in the negative direction. Okay? So, please follow this formula para dun sa application ninyo. Okay? So, thank you and I hope to see you soon. Okay? Or see you around. Goodbye, class!